Good evening. This is Tracy Evans Langley, and I am here to share my NC Demos Upcycle project with you. There was a lot going on with this card tonight, so I thought it was better to just make a video so you can create this at home with your own upcycled, recycled products. So let's get going. Um, there we go. Okay, so I started out with my original thought was I would use a piece from an avocado bag that you get avocados in from the grocery store as my mask or stencil. It was a little too lightweight, so it didn't work. I'll show you the original one. It kind of just turned into a blob, but it's still kind of cool. So I had this, which isn't horrible, but kind of a blob. So then I realized that I had saved one of the packaging pieces from a wine bottle at some point, and I decided it was a little heavier weight and had a little more form so that that was what I would use for my masking for my project. And then the other thing I decided to upcycle is a piece of our acetate that comes in our Stampin' Up! Stamp sets because I save it and I've used it for shaker cards and things, but one of my fellow demos at a recent event had used hers to make her template for doing some blending, and I thought it was such a great idea, especially if you're doing a whole lot. It holds up a lot better than just using a paper one. So the first thing I did, and I'll just show you, was that I cut out my template for my flower that we're going to stamp. And I saved the piece that I cut out, and I'll show you what I did with that too. So we just used everything. So while we're going to start with how I created my paper. So the first thing I did actually was I went in with the Elements of Text stamp set, and I did some stamping. So let's do that. So I started with some Cajun Craze. And I just randomly stamped one of my text stamps. If you don't have the Elements of Text, you want to add this to your collection. It is probably one of my favorite stamp sets in a very long time. It makes some wonderful backgrounds and it's very handy. Okay, so that looks pretty good. And then I came in with the splotchy one, the splotchy ones, and a little bit of the basic beige. And I am using some basic beige cardstock. And I just randomly filled in some space. And the great thing is there's no right or wrong. This is just random stamping. Not even very good random stamping, but that's okay. Because it's just going to give us some more texture and dimension for our project. There, right there. Okay. So once we did that, put that away. And now we're going to grab our piece to use as our mask. Normally I would use washi tape to do something like this, but because this is plastic and it's kind of wiggly, I just grabbed some masking tape. You could also grab some painter's tape. You just want something a little heavier duty to hold it down. So I'm just going to tape this to my scrap paper, and you do want to make sure that you have some paper down that you don't care about that you're going to just throw away when this is done, because you're going to get it's going to get very messy. We're just going to tape that down. And I'm just taping it to the scrap paper. I'm not taping it to my cardstock. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some embossing paste. And I could have colored this, but I chose not to. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to grab my embossing paste and I'm going to get a silicone sheet. Remember, when you're using your embossing paste, you want to seal this back up as soon as you use it. You do not want to leave it after. And I'm just going to grab a palette knife. It doesn't matter which one. I've got it all over me, but that's okay too. I'll be sparkly for the afternoon. All right, so I'm just going to take a glob and I'm just going to work pretty quickly. I'm not going to overthink this. And I'm just going to spread my embossing paste. And I'm not even going to try to get it all over. I'm just doing some random sections. I am trying to get it a little bit smooth, but if I've got some chunky globby parts, that's okay too. A little bit more. If I was going to color this, I would have put a glob on my silicone mat and then added some re-inker to it, but I'm going to do something a little bit different. I didn't want all of the paste to be colored. I'm doing this bottom edge. And I'm using the shimmer paste, but if you've got the just regular paste, you could use that too. It doesn't matter. I just think you can't ever have them too much sparkle. Do a little bit up in that corner, just a little over there. And I'm not being particularly even very careful with this today. Okay. Like I said, you want to make sure you seal this paste as soon as you're done with it. Don't leave it out. It will dry up very quickly. I might even keep mine in my little Ziploc bag. Okay. So we're going to basically set this aside to dry. I am going to go ahead and take it out from underneath the stencil. Oh, no, I'm lying to you. Again, before I do that, I'm going to add some color. So I'm going to add some color. I've added some alcohol and old olive re-inker to my spritzer. And I'm just going to give it, make sure I'm pointing it away from me. I'm just going to do a little spritz. And I should have shaken that up because it's really dark, but that's okay. Okay, now I'm going to take this off because I don't want my mask to stick to my paper. So voila, I have that. And we're going to get that off of there. And I'm just going to put it on my silicone mat. I'm just going to slide it over. And I could have put it on my silicone mat to use with the embossing paste. All right, so we're going to get all that out of our way. Okay, so because we're going to put a piece of the bag from our avocado bag down, I'm going to go ahead and do that because this is already sticky and it'll just help stick it down. So I just grabbed my bag and I just cut a piece, just a random swatch. This is going to stretch just a little bit, but not a ton. But I'm just going to go ahead and stick this down so it sticks to my paste. And I'm going to not even, I'll kind of just let it kind of do its thing. Okay, now I can just totally set this aside and let this dry. And while that's happening, I'm going to grab, oh, by the way, this is going to leave little bits of the bag. So you're just going to want to make sure you've got a Swiffer sheet or something, or have a vacuum handy because it kind of goes everywhere. So while that's all drying, I am going to take my stencil that I made earlier, and I am going to take a piece of basically my flower that I have stamped and already die cut. And I'm going to put that in my stencil. I'm going to grab some more scrap paper. And I'm just going to, basically, I'm going to fit my flower back in my template. Okay. Maybe. And this fits in pretty nicely, so I'm not even going to tape it down or anything. I'm just going to stick it in there. Maybe. So once I have that in there, I'm going to grab some blending brushes. And I'm going to start with some Calypso Coral. And I'm just going to go in and fill in some of the flowers. And I could do this without the template, but I think it makes it a little bit easier. I don't have to be quite as careful. Okay, so I added a little Calypso Coral. And got a little Cajun Craze. And actually, I've got a lot on this brush, so I am not going to ink it until I've kind of tested it out a little bit. Oh, yeah, okay, so we can add a little ink to it. Okay. The fun thing with this card is you could use kind of any colors you want. Up there, oh, I got a nice big blob, but that's okay. All right, those look pretty good. What I like about coloring like this is versus maybe using the blends or a watercolor technique is it just goes fast. And it doesn't have to be super perfect. Yeah, okay. I got a lot of ink, but that's okay. Just get some of those leaves in there. Okay. We are going to call that good. Get rid of our ink and our blending brushes. And now we're going to take that piece so we can wipe this template off and we can reuse this. So we'll just clean that off when we clean off all of our embossing. And I'm going to take the acetate piece that I cut out to make my stencil. And I'm going to just grab some of my multi-purpose glue. Make sure this is on the right side and it's lined up. And I'm just going to glue this acetate piece to the top of my flowers, which will make it kind of shiny, which I think is kind of neat. And I'm just putting a little dot of glue kind of here and there. All right. And when you do this, you can just kind of slide it around. Pick this up. You're just going to slide this acetate around just a little, and it will kind of smooth out your glue, which will dry clear and will hold the acetate onto your cardstock piece. When I originally did this, I used the basic white thick cardstock instead of the regular basic white, which is what I'm stamping on now. I think I like doing it with the basic white thick a little better. And I've got a piece that needs to be punched out. There it goes. All right, so then I have my flower. Let's see if you guys, yeah, you can see it's shiny. So you could do this with any of your images that you can die cut. So kind of a fun way to use up some acetate. All right, so once our piece is dry, and it is not, so I'm not going to do that, we're going to add a frame and then add it to our card base and then add a sentiment and a piece of ribbon. And this is our final card. So there you go. there is our not simple, actually, it's pretty simple, um, but upcycled, fun, kind of cool, fancy card. So let's come. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this quick tutorial, and I hope that you'll go through the things that you might normally just throw away, or those things that you keep stashing because you're going to use it someday. And I hope that I've inspired you to go out there and find some of that stuff and make something fun. If you have any questions or want help or want to order any of the stamps or products that I've shown you, please just drop me a line or feel free to shop on my online store 24/7. Thanks and have a great evening.